August 1944. The Nazi grip on Europe is shattering. General George S. Patton and his Third Army are tearing through the French countryside like a thunderstorm made of steel. They are moving so fast that the German High Command thinks Patton is a ghost. One moment he's here, the next he's 50 miles deeper into their territory. But then, the lightning stops. The lead elements of the 4th Armored Division pull up to the outskirts of a strategic French city. The road to the German border lies directly through its center. The Americans expect the usual: weeping citizens, bottles of hidden wine, and the keys to the city. Instead, they find the massive iron-reinforced medieval gates slammed shut, bolted, defiant. There are no German soldiers in sight, no snipers in the bell towers, no panzer tanks in the shadows. The city is empty of enemies. So why are the gates locked? A young American lieutenant approaches the wall with a white flag. He is met not by a general, but by a man in a dusty suit and a tricolor sash, the local mayor. The mayor's message is simple, cold, and utterly insane. You are not coming in. Turn your tanks around, find another way. When the word reaches Patton's headquarters, the air in the room turns electric. Imagine being the man who tells George S. Patton, a man who believes he is the reincarnation of a Roman legate, that a local politician has closed the door on his war. This wasn't just a delay, this was a crisis. Every hour Patton's tanks sat idling was an hour the German army used to dig in, lay mines, and prepare the slaughter that would become the Battle of the Bulge. The curiosity gap here is massive. Why would a liberated Frenchman stop the man coming to save him? Was the mayor a secret collaborator? Was there a hidden Nazi gold reserve inside? Or was it something far more sinister? In the next 20 minutes, we are going to deconstruct the single most tense hour of Patton's career. A moment where old blood and guts had to decide: do I respect the sovereignty of an ally, or do I turn 1,000 years of French history into a parking lot? This is the story the day the unstoppable force met the immovable object. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll realize that the hero and the villain of this story aren't who you think they are.
The logic of madness. To understand why the gates were closed, we have to look inside the mind of the mayor. To the world, Patton was a liberator. To the mayor, Patton was a wrecking ball. The city was ancient, a labyrinth of timber-framed houses, narrow cobblestone alleys, and fragile cathedrals. The mayor knew that if a division of 30-ton Sherman tanks roared through those streets, the vibration alone would shake the foundations of history. But there was a darker fear. He knew that if the Americans used the city as a base, the retreating German Luftwaffe and heavy artillery would turn the town into a target. The mayor's logic was a desperate gamble. If I keep the Americans out, the Germans have no reason to destroy us. It was a policy of neutrality through obstruction. He was willing to risk the wrath of the U.S. Army to save his architecture. But he didn't know George S. Patton. Patton believed in the destiny of the road. In his mind, every cobblestone in France existed for one purpose: to carry his boots toward Berlin. When he heard the mayor's reasoning, he didn't see a man trying to save his home. He saw a man helping the enemy by stealing time. Patton arrived at the front line in a fury that his aides described as apocalyptic. He didn't bring a diplomat. He didn't bring a translator. He brought his command car, his pearl-handled revolvers, and a battery of 155mm long-tom artillery pieces. He looked up at the stone walls, walls that had stood since the Crusades, and he didn't see history. He saw a target. The dialogue that followed is the stuff of military legend. Patton sent a final messenger to the gate. No polite requests, no pleas, just a direct ultimatum. Patton gave the mayor exactly 30 minutes to swing those gates open. If they remained closed, Patton gave a chilling order to his artillery commanders. Level the gates, then level the buildings behind them. If they want to be a fortress, I will treat them like a fortress. The American soldiers, many of whom had French ancestry, were horrified. They were being told to open fire on the people they had come to save. The tension wasn't just between Patton and the mayor, it was within the American ranks themselves. Would the gunners actually pull the lanyard? Would they blow up a French mayor in the name of speed? The clock began to tick. 29 minutes, 28 minutes. The world waited to see if Patton was a liberator or a monster.
The secret in the shadows. As the sun beat down on the stalled American column, something was happening inside the city walls that the mayor hadn't accounted for. You see, the mayor wasn't just acting out of a love for architecture. The transcript of the events suggests a deeper, more political layer. The town was a powder keg. Inside, the French resistance, the FFI, were watching from the windows. They had been fighting a guerrilla war in the shadows for years. To them, the mayor's decision wasn't about saving buildings. It was about maintaining his own power and protecting local collaborators who feared American justice. The resistance knew that if Patton turned his guns on the city, the blood would be on the mayor's hands, but the corpses would be their families. They faced a choice: let the American general destroy the town or commit treason against their own local government to open the doors. Meanwhile, back at the command jeep, Patton was checking his watch. 15 minutes left. His aides tried to reason with him. "General, the press will crucify us. Patton shells liberated city will be the headline in every paper from New York to London." Patton's response was classic, ruthless, and purely pragmatic. He argued that every day the war was prolonged, 1,000 more Allied soldiers died. If destroying one French town saved 5,000 American boys, the math of war demanded the sacrifice. It was a cold, utilitarian logic that defined his command style. But just as the order, "fire," was on the tip of the commander's tongue, the heavy iron bolts of the city gate began to groan. It wasn't the mayor who opened them. The resistance had stormed the gatehouse. In a brief, violent struggle that history often overlooks, the French people themselves overthrew the mayor's guards. They realized that liberation isn't something you ask for, it's something you grab. The gates swung wide. The path was clear. Patton didn't wait for a formal apology. He didn't even wait for the gates to hit the walls. He signaled his driver to go. As his jeep roared through the archway, he passed the mayor, who was standing there, defeated and pale. What Patton did next is the ultimate guts moment. He didn't arrest the mayor. He didn't stop to gloat. He leaned out of his jeep, looked the man in the eye, and supposedly uttered a line that has been debated for decades.
The aftermath. The lesson of the gate. As the Third Army thundered through the narrow streets, miraculously without knocking down a single building, Patton's mind was already 10 miles down the road. The standoff at the gate was over in an hour, but its ripples lasted for years. What did Patton say to the mayor? Some accounts say he simply shouted, "Get out of the way of a real war." Others suggest he made a much more vulgar comment about the mayor's courage. But the result was the same. Patton proved that in total war, there is no such thing as neutral ground. If you visit that town today, you won't find a statue of the mayor. You might find a small plaque dedicated to the resistance, but the real monument is the city itself. Because Patton didn't fire. His bluff, if it even was a bluff, worked. He used the threat of total destruction to force a peaceful resolution. This event teaches us 3 critical things about leadership that apply even today, whether you're in a boardroom or on a battlefield. The value of an ultimatum. Patton knew that a deadline focuses the mind. Without a clock, the mayor would have talked for days. The priority of the mission. Patton was willing to be the villain to achieve the ultimate goal of ending the war. He didn't care about his likes or his approval rating. The power of presence. The moment Patton showed up personally at the gate, the dynamic changed. Leadership isn't done from a tent, it's done at the point of friction. General Patton would die just a few months after the war ended, never seeing the world he helped rebuild. Many called him a warmonger.
Many called him a genius, but on that day at the French gate, he was simply a man who refused to let a door stand in the way of destiny. He didn't just open a gate, he opened the road to Germany, and he did it by being the one man who was more terrifying than the Nazis themselves. If you were that mayor, would you have opened the gates to save your history, or kept them closed to save your people from the crossfire? And if you were Patton, would you have actually pulled the trigger? Let me know in the comments below. History isn't just about what happened, it's about what could have happened if a different man was in that Jeep. If you want to see more untold stories of Patton's madness and brilliance, click the video on your screen right now. Don't forget to subscribe to join our journey through the darkest corners of history.